My Jewish Journey by Maddie Reich. When I was a little kid, my family lived on Long Island in New York. Living there, I was able to be connected with many other Jewish people, including many Jewish family members. I attended Hebrew school, read from the Torah with my dad, sometimes attended synagogue, and was generally curious about Judaism. I didn't think a lot about what Judaism meant for me as a religion, ethnicity, or culture, but participated in it with my family. When I was 12, my family moved from New York to North Carolina. Living in the South was very different from living in New York. My family was the only Jewish family in our town. The kids who I went to school with did not know much, if anything, about Judaism, and they chose to fall back on stereotypes about Jews. Even some of my friends said these things to me. This made identifying as Jewish very difficult. It felt like openly identifying as Jewish would give my peers permission to talk and joke about Judaism even more often. During high school, I chose to minimize my Jewish identity and instead identified as atheist. It wasn't until college when I felt I had the freedom to connect with my Judaism. When I told others in college about being Jewish, I didn't hear the stereotypes that had always come up when I was in middle and high school. During my sophomore year, I got involved with Jewish life on campus, first through Hollow for Hunger. Being able to connect to Judaism culturally was very fulfilling. From participating in high holidays to visiting Israel on birthright, I began to connect to Judaism in my own way to figure out what Judaism meant to me and how I would live Jewishly. My Jewish identity development somewhat aligns with the only Judaism-specific identity development model. McDonald Dennis's model focuses on anti-Semitism's impact on Jewish identity and includes 5 stages. The first stage is ethno-religious awareness. As a Jew in a community where I was able to connect with other Jews, my Jewish identity was positive. I was able to participate in Jewish activities. However, because I was not from a majority Jewish community and I moved away from the small Jewish community I had, I did not have a strong Jewish identity. I didn't know that anti-Semitism was an issue I would face. I was aware of my ethnic identity as Jewish that I was given from my family. The second stage is minimization. After moving to North Carolina, I became very aware that Jews are stereotyped and began minimizing my Jewish identity. To be accepted in my friend groups, I went along with my friends who made fun of Judaism. The third stage is awakening to historic and political consciousness to anti-Semitism. In this stage, I think my Jewish journey deviates from the model. Jewish students realize that anti-Semitism is part of a system of oppression and that it isn't their fault these stereotypes they've experienced exist. Many are angry and seek to learn all they can in order to figure out what Judaism means to them. In my journey, I sought to learn more about my connection to Judaism because I was finally part of a community that did not openly discriminate against my Jewish identity. This allowed me to feel free to think about who I was as a Jew and ultimately explore the Jewish community at my university. Stage 4 is rejection of Christian hegemony. Again, my Jewish journey differs from the model. In this stage, Jewish students realize that Christianity is the dominant perspective in society, and they begin to challenge that domination. I recognized much earlier in my journey that Christianity was the dominant religion and rejected it by identifying as atheist in high school. While I did not understand the extent to which Christianity was privileged in society, I had an awareness that this was true because my Christian friends and classmates did not receive the same treatment as I did for being Jewish. However, I did not actively challenge Christian hegemony, as the model describes students doing in this stage. The 5th stage is redefinition. For students in this stage, there is not as much anger as there was in earlier stages. Jewish students seek to find their own sense of self outside of their relationship to Christian hegemony and anti-Semitism. When I began to explore Judaism in college, this is what I was trying to do. I wanted to figure out what Judaism meant to me personally and how I could incorporate it in my life. I was seeking to connect with others who had similar experiences as me. I became more aware of the bigger picture of anti-Semitism as I began incorporating Judaism in my life. While this model does not completely match my experience, it is useful in understanding what kind of impacts anti-Semitism can have on Jewish students and some of the impacts it had on me. At times when learning about this model, I really felt like it described my experience. More work needs to be done to fully capture Jewish student identity development, but this model is a good place to start. Exploring and understanding my Jewish identity as an ethnicity, religion, and culture is a lifelong adventure. I hope through better understanding my own identity, I can help other Jewish students develop their identities.
Created using Powtoon.